Hello and welcome to another solo episode on the Traumweberinnen Podcast. My name is Manuela and I am your host tonight. And I have just returned from an amazing concert. I love to go to the local concert hall for classical concerts. And tonight there's been just this wonderful, most amazing pianist. She's 22 years old and I just couldn't stop looking at her. It was so magical. She was so deep in the flow state, like she was feeling it. And I love witnessing people really in the flow state. And it was so special because she wasn't just feeling it, she was the music, and it was so special. And I feel like that this is the new generation, you know? It didn't feel like as if she played this concert to be this great pianist, to have this grand career and to feed her ego with it. It felt as though this was so truly her, and that she was doing out of pure self-expression and just being who she truly is, and with that expression of who she truly is, touching the whole audience, touching the whole orchestra. Like I watched the faces of the other musicians and they were so in awe, and it was just this perfect symbiosis. Like I have been to the Vienna Philharmonics and to the greatest orchestras that we have here in Austria, but this tonight was really special, and it was the Basel Symphony Orchestra, I think, and I don't even recall her name because I always buy my 10 euro student tickets and then I go, and most of the time I don't even know what I'm going to. But tonight was really special. But what I really wanted to articulate and to leave you with is this grand impression that this young woman made on me by just being herself and giving herself, not like these grand divas, but this wonderful, charming young woman that was so truly herself, playing the piano, and was even kind of shy when everybody applauded, and it felt like she would have preferred to just stay on the piano forever and then just disappear, play forever and then disappear. Like the applause was not why she did it. She did it because this was like breathing to other people, is playing for her, and it just blew my mind. I'm still like, this will stay with me for a while, this concert and her performance. It was really inspirational, and I feel like that this is something that we in our society have lost sight of, or that's not something that we see or that we honor, that when you are truly yourself, expressing yourself truly, your true essence, when you give in to what you love doing the most, and by doing so you touch people. I don't know, I feel like this has really kind of gotten lost. Like the main goal that many people have is like recognition and money and fame and that career and this career, and I totally get that. Like those things are on my mind too. Like I want to live in abundance, I want to be rich, I want to be recognized. I totally get that. But I was so touched today by her performance and by this pure self-expression. I don't know if I'm doing this with my podcast, but I think that I might get close to what she does, because I feel really in the flow when I'm interviewing people, when I have amazing conversations with women that I want to learn from, where I'm just swallowing every bit of knowledge that they give me. I'm like this huge sponge who wants to take everything in and keep it and swell and swell and swell. And I love doing that, and I love having these conversations, and I love giving something back to you guys, girls out there from those conversations. And I feel like I'm not nearly, or like I'm on a good path, I'm on a good way, but I'm not as far as this young pianist is. But then on the other hand, for her to be able to play like this, there must have been hours and hours of practice that we don't even see put into her skill, poured into her skill for it to evolve like this, and for yourself to be able to enjoy it like that. Like, I'm a musician too, and I mean, I do enjoy playing very simple songs with the flute and really, really enjoying it. But when I did exams at the music school, I was on a really, really high level, and the amount of joy that you feel when you play an instrument so well, it's just pure bliss. And this young pianist is at a point where you're like, wow, she's mastered the skill to enjoy it at a level, and she's just, you should have seen this. Just so into it and with a flow and eyes closed, and she didn't give a shit about all the people watching. The only thing she cared about was playing with this orchestra and just giving herself up to the music. She herself as a human being vanishing in the magnificence of the music. And to me, this is goals. Like, I as a person want to vanish in the magnificence of what I put out to the world, what I do, what I love doing, in what I love doing. And I don't know, I feel like I want to shift my perspective on this. I want to shift my perspective from I want to get recognition, fame, and money to I want to be in the flow like her. I want to vanish in the magnificence of what I do. Yeah, that's the decision that I've made tonight. And yeah, it was just a wonderful experience that really, and I mean, I feel like when you do that, the recognition, the fame, and the money comes. It's like the manifestation principle number 1. Once you stop caring about it and letting it go, it flows into your life. You formulate your desire, you let go of it, you forget about it, and at some point in time, it will come to you. And I feel like when you're in the flow like this, doing what you love, all those external things are coming to you. And that's why I do this podcast, earning no money with it, getting no recognition with it, because I feel like when I set out on this path, on this journey of developing a skill and really following my passion, that one day these things will come in, the money and the recognition, and people that are like, hey, I love what you're doing and I want to hear more of it. I want to work with you maybe. But I'm just setting out. I'm starting to learn to play the instrument, and I'm just really looking forward to the day where I can be so much in the flow like her and vanish in the magnificence of what I put out to the world. Yeah. Actually, I wanted to talk about intuition tonight. And I've just talked about my amazing evening. And I don't really know how to link these two. Well, no, I do know how to link these two, because intuition is the feeling that you have inside of you that tells you oh, I really like this, and I really like this, and I really like that, and this doesn't feel so good, and this doesn't feel so good. And I'm a fervent believer that we should heed what our gut feeling tells us, and that we should follow that path of what lights us up, and not what other people want us to, or not follow the expectations that other people have of you. And I don't know if you know Jay Shetty's On Purpose podcast. It's my number one favorite podcast ever. And his last question on every podcast episode, or his last two questions are, what's the best advice that you ever got? And what's the worst advice that you ever got? And this just popped into my mind. The worst advice that I ever got. Someone once told me, you have to work your whole life at a job. And most people hate the job that they're working. So it's very likely that you are gonna hate your job for the rest of your life. So if you take it as a given that you will dislike your job, then at least do a job that pays well. And I feel like this is the worst advice that I've ever gotten. And I totally get where that person came from, being really frustrated with doing a job that A, they hate, and B, that's not earning them a lot of money, just enough money to get by. And I really, really understand that that is super frustrating. But to say to a young person, just do a job that is going to pay you really, really well, instead of find out what you're truly passionate about and chase that. And if your passions change along the way, then you can change career or change jobs at any times. Everything is possible. You get that advice. And I feel like that is something that is kind of floating around out there a lot. And I don't believe it's true. And for me personally, I feel like that is the worst advice that you can give to a young person, because you can always switch paths and you can always change your life situation. You can always get out. You can always, change your situation. And I don't think that any money in the world can outweigh the joy that you feel when you do what you love. And when you do what you love, the money will follow. And I've seen that in countless examples in my friends group, in the women that I surround myself with, or people that I surround myself with. I see that in men and in women. When you follow your passion and you develop that skill that you're really passionate about, at some point it will turn around. Opportunities will present themselves. And even if you say money is not that important to me, or if you have a job that does not pay you well and you're still so happy about it, isn't that kind of better than doing a job you hate and that doesn't pay well? I'm not going to go further down that road, but if you'd like, think about the fact, or think about these two questions. What's the best advice that you ever got? And what's the worst advice that you ever got? Sometimes, or most of the time, a bad advice when you hear it. And I feel like with advice and with people having an influence on your life, for me now, I really pay attention to where are these people coming from? Is this advice coming from a perspective of fear, or is it coming from a perspective of love? Because sometimes criticism or advice can come from a place of love. When my friends see that I'm struggling with something, or that I'm doing something in a manner that I could do a different way and it would maybe be easier for me, and they say this to me because they love me, and they're like, hey, I know you've been doing this or that, and I have observed that maybe you could do it in this fashion, it would be easier, better, have more of a positive outcome for you. Or I don't know, like you did this podcast episode and the lighting was terrible or the audio was terrible. No, they don't even formulate it like this. They're just like, maybe you could improve on the audio. I've listened to your episode and I really, really loved what you were saying, but maybe if you changed this or that, you can feel it in people. You can feel when their advice comes from a place of love. Do they tell me this because they love me? Or does it come from a place of fear? This might also come from people where you're like, I know this person loves me, but do they tell me this because they fear? Do they fear for my reputation? Do they fear for their own reputation because they're associated with me? Do they fear because they see the world as a fearful place and where you always have to watch out for yourself and guard yourself? Like, what intention is behind the advice that people give to you? And that also comes down to intuition because you feel it. When someone gives me advice and I know this is one of my best friends and he or she really loves me and I know that they mean well, but when I feel like, like when you sense it, does this come from a place of fear or does it come from a place of love? Does it come from, hey, I love what you're doing and I love you and I love the world. The world is not a hateful place. People are genuine. People love you. But I think you could better or improve this or that just because I know that it is in your power to do so. And you feel that. Like with the audio of my podcast, I have had criticism and I have really felt the difference between friends saying, hey, I love what you're putting out, but you could improve on the audio. You feel it. It doesn't have to be a difference in how they say it. It can be the exact same sentence, but some people will say it in love and some people will say it in fear. And you feel that. And that I think is really, that is a line where you can look out, that you can look out for. Do people give me advice out of love or out of fear? That is really something that I've noticed, especially with the podcast in the past couple of months. People do give you feedback, even if you didn't ask for it. On everything you do, they will give you feedback. When you're a musician, people will give you feedback if you want it or not. When you're even, I saw this on Instagram lately, Mareike Fallwicke. We all love her. One of the most amazing female authors right now in Austria got criticized at a book signing event for holding the pencil weird or wrong, or I don't even remember exactly, but she got criticized for holding a pencil. Whatever you do, people will criticize you or give you feedback, and I, for myself, tend to look out for, does it come out of love? And then I let it come to me. Does it out of fear? That's where I set my boundary and where I'm like, I'm not going to take this personally or seriously because it came out of fear. That's, I think, a way where intuition is really, really, really helpful for your own personal sanity and your own personal self-worth to really draw the line there. What else did I want to say about intuition? Another bad advice that I actually grew up with, that was very prevalent in my home and with my relatives and with the boomer generation around me, was this, or maybe even millennials, I can't really put it into a category, was this sense of you have to be really careful to not make the wrong decisions. Like when you make the wrong decisions, when you make too many wrong decisions, your life's going to take a downward path and you're never going to recover from it. That was a fear that I actually had growing up, because there were so many adults around me being like, oh, I made too many wrong decisions, and child, you have to be careful not to make too many wrong decisions. And I've been reflecting on this a lot, because I've never felt, I mean, I'm only 25 years old, but I never had the feeling that I have made any wrong decisions. Like, I can stand by any decision that I've made, be it school, university, relationship-wise, job-wise, because I feel like there's always a way out, but that is my perspective. And when I look back on those 25 years, I have no regrets. I don't regret anything, and some decisions have put me in bad situations, or as I would prefer to call them, growth situations, but that is my perspective. And I do believe that that is a perspective that gives you a little bit of a more positive outlook on life, instead of the, ooh, wrong decision, be careful, this fearful energy. I don't think that it is beneficial to yourself if you are so afraid of making the wrong choices. And I did have this in the back of my mind when I was like super young, 18, 19, and starting to date. And I was like, oh my God, I have to be so careful not to make the wrong choice. And in the end, if we stay with the example of dating, there are no wrong choices. There are just experiences. And when you choose this partner, and there are a couple of things that you don't like about them and a lot of things that you do like about them, then that to me is not a wrong choice, and I wouldn't be with them if the bad stuff outweighed the good stuff. And if it did, then at some point you will notice, and then you will leave. And even if it takes more years than you would like it to take, this is an experience, and you need those years. If it takes years for you to realize that you've been in a bad relationship, then it probably had to take those years for you to realize that, and to really draw the line afterward and say, hey, I'm not gonna let myself be treated in that way ever again. But I feel like it's really dangerous that we then believe that those were wrong choices, and they have taken valuable time from us. If you're in a bad situation for years, and then you've really, really learned it, I feel like, isn't that kind of better than repeating the same pattern or repeating the same lesson over and over again until you, like, I don't think there is a wrong or right about this, because apparently you gotta learn a couple of things in your life, and apparently your soul chose to learn this or that, and then it takes the time for you to learn that, and it's either you repeat it over and over again, or you stay in a bad situation until you realize it, and then it takes that time, I guess. So I feel like this wrong decision thingy, having regrets, regretting not getting out of a relationship or a job sooner, I mean, and living in that fearful energy, I don't feel like it's worth it, and I don't think that it's a healthy perspective to be always fearful of wrong decisions. And maybe that's also something that is wrong or dangerous in our society, that we tend to be like, you have to have this perfect life and you have to have everything figured out right away. Like, no, that's not how human beings and life works. And I feel like we should be more tolerant with each other. Like, hey, it took you 5 years to notice that your boyfriend, husband is a douchebag. Well, at least now you know it, and we celebrate you for it. Instead of, but that took you long, and you know what I mean. I think you know what I mean. So I'm really grappling with this idea of wrong decisions. I don't think there are wrong decisions. And even the wrong decisions lead you to good places, to amazing opportunities. Like staying in that toxic job might have given you the opportunity to get to know amazing people, with whom you've worked with later on, or that have helped you get out of that job and then have been friends later. And I feel like that is just a happier and healthier perspective for me, and maybe for you as well. And I love this theory that when you make a decision, or when you have to make a decision, all the possible realities exist. Like when I make the decision to leave home, as an example, I'm living this reality that decides to leave home, and in another reality, I don't. I stay at home and whatever comes to pass, or I leave that job, I don't leave that job, and every decision sets off two timelines, and you're living in this time and not in this timeline and not in the other timeline. And I love this idea that you're experiencing this timeline, you're making the decisions that you're making because your higher being wants to experience exactly this. And this is for your higher being the best and most beneficial timeline. And that's why I'm like, wrong decisions don't exist for me anymore, because I'm living in this timeline. I'm making the decisions that I make because my higher being wants to experience exactly that. Our life is multifaceted. There are so many experiences to be had on this earth, and your higher being chose to experience exactly that. And I, for myself, want to honor that. Whatever path I take, this is exactly what my higher being wants to experience and what my higher being wants to learn in this life. And yeah, the fact that when we follow our heart, everything else falls into place, and that when we, as an ego, as a person, vanish in the magnificence, in the love that we have for, be it music, be it art, be it, I don't know, maths, whatever it is that lights you up, then everything else falls into place. And I just really enjoy that I have made the decision for myself that that is what I want to pursue, that I do not want to take the hard road and work my ass off at a job that doesn't fulfill me just for the name of it and the prestige of it. And no, I have decided for myself that I want ease in my life, and that I want to be able to follow my passions and see where they lead me, and walk through every open door that leads towards all of those things that I love doing, and be it with a partner or without. That's when the time is right, I will meet the right person, and it's going to be easy and it's going to be good. Just as it was the last couple of times. You open a door, you meet someone, and it's easy and it just flows and there's no struggle. I just really love listening to my inner voice. It has never led me astray, and I have no regrets. Every decision that I've made, everything that I've done with the best interests for me and for everyone at heart. And I think that is just, it gives you such a peace and a love for life that I wish for all the people who have ever told me don't make the wrong decisions. And my life is so bad now because I made 5 bad decisions in my life, and let me tell you about every bad decision that I've made in my life. No guys, girls. No, just go with the flow. That's also something that I really love about The Last Airbender, is the fact that you can't escape your destiny. I am a firm believer that there are things in your life that are predetermined. You are going to meet certain people. You are going to be in certain situations. Certain things are going to work out for you and certain things are not going to work out for you, because that is what you decided for your growth. And that's also what you see in The Last Airbender, Avatar. I don't know, many of you might know the cartoon series. So many core memories for me unlocked watching the live action, because that's just been my whole childhood. And I love that a series like that has been my whole childhood. Like this just inner knowing that you are going to fulfill your destiny. There is free will, and you can decide what you make of decisions and how you react to things, and what your mindset is, what your outlook on life is. But there are certain steps that you are going to take on your journey, and you are going to fulfill your destiny, and there is nothing you can do about it, and there is nothing you can fuck up. Like there are no mistakes. I think this is so freeing. I love this in The Last Airbender, where he's the avatar and he's like, I'm so sorry I haven't been able to save the world, because when this big war started, he got frozen in time and then reappeared 100 years later, when the war was already in full swing and everything, and everybody's blaming him because he's the avatar. Why have you vanished and not been here? But it hasn't been his fault. Long story short. But if he had not been frozen, he wouldn't have been able to come back 100 years later and save all those people. He was not ready when the war started to help, to support his people, to save the world. But 100 years later, he gets the chance to develop the skills that he needs. And I think that we can really take this into our lives, that when something doesn't happen now, it's for a reason, because you're not ready yet, because you still have to develop some skills, meet certain people, and then 2 years later you might be ready. Well, not 100 years later, 2 years later, you might be ready to do this. And maybe you needed certain experiences, or maybe you just needed time, and then it clicks, and then you're woke. No, you wake up and you're like, now I get it. I can really recommend The Last Airbender. I just love it. I love the live action. It's, so many core memories are getting unlocked for me right now. I love it. But yeah, when things don't work out now for you, just wait and let it rest. Like the other day, I wanted to log in somewhere and it didn't work, and I was getting really frustrated and really worked up and really furious. I was like, why is this not working? It never works for me. Why is it always me? I guess you know this inner dialogue. And 3 days later, it worked as if it had never not worked. And I was like, are you friggin' kidding me? So sometimes you only have to wait. Sometimes the only thing it takes is time. And I just hope that you were able to get anything out of it for yourself, out of this little self-talk. And I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.